Okay, so imagine this. You are going through a very, very difficult time. Maybe you are struggling to pay your school fees. Maybe you are struggling to pay your rent. Maybe it is a medical bill that you are struggling to pay. But the idea here is that you are going through a difficult time and you don't have enough money to pay for it. And your payday is very far away. Then one day, whilst you are scrolling through your phone, you come across an app that is promising something that is almost, that sounds almost too good to be true. They are telling you that you can get a loan in minutes with no collateral, no paperwork, and with instant approval. So you sit with it for a while and you decide that, okay, let me borrow like 200 Ghana cedis. At first, everything seems, very fine. Everything works normal. You get the money almost instantly. Problem solved, right? Well, not exactly, because a few days later, your phone starts ringing and stop. Like, just keep getting, calls over and over again. And this calls is not somebody that is trying to call and, check up on you, but it is people calling to tell you that they have been receiving messages telling them that you are owing money. Can you imagine that? They are telling you that you are owing money. They are getting messages telling them that you are owing money, that you are a criminal, that you are doing fraud and stuff. And your mother receives a message like that. Your brother receives a message like that. Your friend receives a message like that. And maybe even your boss receives a message like that. And suddenly the loan that you took in private has suddenly become a public embarrassment. And the worst part is that you didn't even give those people your number. The app found them. And now, if that sounds very unbelievable to you, you are not alone, because recently the Bank of Ghana issued a public warning against more than 97 loan apps that are operating in Ghana and they are unlicensed. And according to the central bank, many of these apps have been accused of violating consumer protection and data privacy laws. So, how did borrowing a few hundred cedis turn into something that could damage a person's entire reputation? And if these apps are illegal, why do people keep falling for the same trap? That is what I'm going to uncover in this video. My name is Remy, so stick with me to the end of this video because I'm going to explain everything for you. So right now, the scary thing is that most people don't download these apps simply because they want to download them. They download them because they feel like they have no other choice. Maybe it is an unexpected hospital bill, maybe it is your school fees, maybe it is your rent, or maybe your business isn't doing well and you need just a little extra cash to keep it running. And when you are in a situation like this, an app that is promising loan with instant approval can feel like the quickest solution to your problem. I mean, we can all relate to something like that. And that is exactly why so many people end up downloading these apps. So you go ahead and install one, and the first thing they ask you for is permission to access your contacts. They want to access your contacts, they want to access your photos, they are asking for permission to even sometimes access your call logs. And for most people, they don't really care much about it. They don't think much about it. They just they don't even read the terms and conditions. They just go ahead and click allow because they want the money. You understand? All they care about is to get their money and leave the app. So you go ahead and click allow, and a few minutes later your loan is approved. The money arrives in your account, whether it's your bank account or a mobile money account. But then you receive the money, and just like that, no long forms, no waiting in line, no collateral. Everything feels very fast, easy, and very, very convenient. And for a moment, it feels like your problem has been solved. But then the repayment date arrives. It is time for you to pay back your loan. And maybe you don't have, you can't pay at that time. Maybe you need just a few more days to be able to pay. And that's when everything starts to change. Because one morning, your mother receives a message saying that you owe money. And a few minutes later, your boss gets the same message. Then your friend calls you and it's like, oh, Charlie, what they go on? And before you are able to realize what is even happening, people around you already know about a loan you never wanted anybody to know about. And according to reports from victims, that's how some of these loan apps pressure borrowers, into paying back the money they owe. Not by taking them to court, not by following the legal process, but by using embarrassment, using fear, and using your own contacts against you. Imagine trying to explain to your mother, your boss, or even your pastor that you are not a criminal, that you were just, struggling, financially at that time. And at this point, you can agree that it is no longer about, just the money. It is now about protecting your name. It is about protecting your reputation and your dignity. You are trying to maintain your name. You don't want your head to spoil. And that is exactly why these loan apps became so controversial, because they weren't just accused of, charging high interest rates, because that is something they also do, but they were accused of turning people's private information into a weapon. And before long, Ghana's financial regulators stepped in. Now, it is very important for me to say this. Not every loan app on your phone is illegal. There are licensed companies in Ghana that offer loans and operate under Ghana's financial law. The problem is the ones that don't follow these laws. And that's exactly why the Bank of Ghana stepped in. Recently, the Bank of Ghana issued a public notice warning Ghanaians against more than 97 unlicensed loan apps operating in the country. According to the Bank of Ghana, these apps are not licensed to give anybody any loan. The bank also warned that many of them violate consumer protection and data privacy laws. It didn't even stop there because banks, mobile money providers, and payment service providers were all advised not to process transactions for these unlicensed apps. In other words, the Bank of Ghana made one thing very clear: these apps are operating outside of the law. But here's the part that caught my attention the most. If these apps are illegal, why do they keep showing up? You see, some users online claim that when one loan app, gets blacklisted, another one appears a few days later with a completely different name. Others even claim that when an app is removed from the Play Store, the people behind it simply rename it, release it again, set up a new mobile merchant's account, and start targeting new victims. Now, it is important to be fair here. These are claims being shared by users online. The Bank of Ghana has warned against these unlicensed apps, but it has not confirmed every one of those specific claims. Still, the fact that so many people are making the same complaint raises an important question. If these apps are illegal and the warnings are public, why do people keep falling for the same trap? And more importantly, who is making sure that they don't just disappear only to return with a different name in a few days' time? So you see, this story was never about loan apps. It is about something much more bigger. Because if someone has enough money to pay an unexpected hospital bill, they probably won't download any of these apps. Again, if someone has enough money to pay their rent, they probably won't download one of these apps either. And also, if a small business owner can get a loan or can easily get a loan from a bank, they probably won't go looking for an app that is promising instant cash. And that is the biggest problem here, because apps or like these apps don't survive because people love them. They survive because people feel like they have no other option. And as long as people are desperate for quick money, some people will always take advantage of that desperation. And that is why the Bank of Ghana has been warning the public for years. It first published a smaller list of unlicensed apps, but then as more time passed and more unlicensed apps were discovered, the warnings also grew. Today, the bank says it has identified more than 97 unlicensed digital loan apps operating in Ghana, which tells you that this isn't just a few bad actors, it is something much more bigger. So, how can you actually protect yourself? Well, first of all, I will advise that you should avoid borrowing money or taking any loan of any sort if not necessary. But in case you ever need to borrow money, the first thing you should do is take a few extra minutes to check whether the lender is licensed. Check very well to see whether the lender is actually licensed or not. Don't just trust an app because it looks professional or promises instant approval. Secondly, pay attention to the permissions that the app is asking for. If a loan app wants access to your contacts, your photos, or even your call logs, or information that has nothing to do with giving you money, ask yourself one question: why do they need all of that information? Because sometimes the fastest loan can become the most expensive loan you will ever take. Not because of the high interest rate, but because of what it can cost you: your privacy, your reputation, and your peace of mind. So, tell us, have you or someone you know ever had an experience with one of these loan apps? What happened? Share your story below in the comments. Someone might read it and avoid making the same mistake. And if you enjoy documentaries like this that go beyond the headlines, then make sure to subscribe and like, because sometimes the biggest story isn't the headline itself, it is what happens after. My name is Remy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe though. Bye.